Sup Swarm, Sketchy here, and welcome to episode 2 of Nah Fam, the show where I give my takes on your hot takes. In today's episode, we're going to be doing more My Little Pony hot takes, this time with input from the YouTube audience. Last time there were only a few takes that were really that out there, and a lot of the takes were takes that I already agreed with, but I'm expecting there to be more Nah Fams in this episode because I do be reading y'all's comments and whew, the takes y'all have, but I'm getting ahead of myself. Now, obviously this means that way more takes were submitted than last time and I can't possibly get to every single one. So I'm gonna pick out the ones that pop out to me the most and answer as many of them as I can until I hit the 10 or 11 minute mark, because I don't want these episodes to be too long. Be sure to stick around to the end to find out next episode's theme, and without further ado, let's get into it. Francisco Melendez says, Twilight doesn't seem like a very good friend in the later seasons, but I don't know if she was ever that good of a friend. It's a yeah fam on the first half and a nah fam on the second, because I definitely feel that Twilight's character dipped in quality in the later seasons, particularly season 7 and especially season 8. By this point in the series, the writer started to treat friendship like more of a religion and less like a social concept, and because Twilight is the princess of friendship and therefore the main vehicle through which the show's philosophy is delivered, she ended up suffering because of that change in philosophy. She started to develop a white savior complex. She started preaching friendship instead of teaching it. It was just a mess. You can tell once the show was starting to come up towards its end that they wanted to prepare Twilight for being the next ruler of Equestria, and in order to convey that, they had Twilight show more Celestia-like traits, but Celestia was meant to be a supporting character, not the main character. So when you put supporting character traits onto a main character, that doesn't always translate well. Asimo says, 28 pranks later, while a good episode about how cruelty begets cruelty and jokes aren't funny if you're the only one laughing, honestly feels a couple seasons too late. With how Rainbow's jerkish tendencies get toned down as the seasons went on and how much she developed, it feels like this was more suited to seasons 2 or 3. I see where you're going with this, but I'm gonna say nah fam because we already had Mysterious Mare Duel in season 2, so if we had 28 pranks later this soon, I feel as though the lesson would have been a little redundant. I think putting the episode where it was for the best, because Rainbow Dash's jerkish tendencies aren't something that just go away. Those are things that you have to continuously work on throughout your life, and sometimes those things slip up and your friends gotta put you in check, and that's what happens in 28 pranks later. So I feel it is at the perfect place in the show. Thero Tries It says, the map took away some of the agency from the main characters and Starlight in regards to the concept of solving problems outside of Ponyville, because some of the main 6 had already established connections outside of Ponyville, and it would have been nice for those connections to be fleshed out. Now it seems the main 6 are only doing these because the map told them so, rather than having a personal investment in making more friendships. Yeah, I can see that. I'm gonna give that a yeah fam. I do still think that some of the map episodes are good, like Sounds of Silence is probably the best one, but I definitely see the line of thinking in how it takes away some of their agency. Then again, if they went on these adventures of their own accord, they would end up looking a lot like Jehovah's Witnesses spreading the gospel of friendship, so I guess it's a necessary evil to an extent, but it's still a yeah fam for me. Philip says, Fluttershy was great from the beginning of the season, not just from season 5 and onward. While I do agree that post It Ain't Easy Being Breezy's Fluttershy is where she went from being a really good character to a fantastic one, seasons 1 through 4 gave her enough to make her compelling to watch. Yeah, it's a yeah fam for me. Even before It Ain't Easy Being Breezy's, Fluttershy was a character I really enjoyed. I remember in my early days of watching the show and I was making my way through season 2, I remember looking through the episode synopses on Netflix, and as I was around halfway through the season, I decided to just skip ahead to Putting Your Hoof Down because I really liked that synopsis and I wanted to see how it played out, and to this day, Putting Your Hoof Down is one of my favorite episodes of season 2. Speaking of Fluttershy, Checkers Chuckhole says, the Fluttershy favoritism in... Hold on 1 second. Ahem. The Fluttershy favoritism in the latter seasons and beyond are too forced, and anyone who disagrees with this is too blind to see it. Face it, she isn't best pony, and she never will be. Okay, I'm gonna give that a strong nah fam. I'm struggling to figure out what favoritism you're even talking about because you highlight season 7 through 9. but Fluttershy only has 2 focus episodes in Season 7, maybe 3 if you want to consider Discordant Harmony a Fluttershy episode. Season 8 only has 2 focus episodes for Fluttershy, and Season 9 only has 1, so as far as the show is concerned, she's not showing any favoritism. And if you're referring to how the fandom reacts to Fluttershy episodes, I remember Fake It Till You Make It being considered a mid-tier episode by the majority of the fandom, so again, I'm not sure where this favoritism you're talking about is supposed to be. Yes, more people started liking her episodes in general, but that's mainly because the show made an objective improvement to her character. She started to become more than just the shy character. Now she's a well-rounded but still soft-spoken person, and that's a lot more interesting, and therefore people like it more. There are characters that I don't like in the show, but you're not gonna hear me saying that the show has favoritism towards them. Two Theater Kids and a Mouthful of a Username says, Sounds of Silence is better than All Bottled Up because it teaches kids that anger is a healthy emotion and learning to deal with it in a healthy way is an important step in becoming a well-adjusted individual. In All Bottled Up, the effects of bottling your anger weren't felt by Starlight, but Trixie. This is another one of those takes where I agree with the nucleus of it. Sounds of Silence is better than All Bottled Up, but I don't think it's because All Bottled Up was a weak episode. I see what you're saying when it comes to Trixie feeling the effects of Starlight bottling up her emotions, but that's how it is when you bottle up your emotions. You start lashing out at people who don't deserve it, and that was the point of the episode. All Bottled Up and Sounds of Silence tackle the issue of bottling up your anger in 2 different ways. All Bottled Up shows how it affects an individual and the people close to them, and Sounds of Silence shows the effects of what that mindset can do when an entire community adopts that mindset. I feel like both episodes are necessary to provide a complete view of how anger isn't an inherently negative emotion, and I see the episodes as companion pieces to each other personally. Alan J says, Season 1 of MLP, despite being praised to high heavens by most people, whether they're on the early season train or not, is one of the worst. Still a great season, but compared to much of what came after, it's a little less funny and engaging. I'ma have to say nah fam to this because I don't really see a lot of people saying that Season 1 is one of the best seasons unless they're one of those anti-Twilacorn people that were pitching a hissy fit way back in Season 3. Personally, I've seen a lot more love for Seasons 2 and 4. And if I were to rank the seasons in tiers, the high tier would be Seasons 2, 4, 6, and 9. Mid tier would be Seasons 1 and 3. Trash tier would be Season 7 and 8. And Season 5 would be in this weird void. It's not bad enough to be trash tier, but not good enough to be mid tier. Maybe low mid tier if I had to give a name to it. Herman Silo says, Fame and Misfortune is an excellent episode because it's both a lesson on relaxing and enjoying something instead of nitpicking it, and a much needed would you people chill already towards the fandom. Here's the thing. I would agree with you if the episode ended after the first half. In the first half of the episode, the way the main 6 were treated was very reminiscent of a lot of the shallow criticism that they've received over the years. And had the episode continued with that, it would have been fine, but then they started to bite back at legitimate criticisms of the characters, or criticisms that were outdated because they had already been addressed and fixed years ago. I mentioned in my top and bottom 5 of Season 7 that Fame and Misfortune had a promising start, but it devolved from an episode that clapped back at bad criticism to an episode that was lashing out against all criticism. Yes, some of the criticism people will throw at you is gonna be bullshit, but that doesn't mean you have to disregard every single critique you get. And the musical number makes this even worse by spouting that "we're not flawless" cliche, but "I'm not flawless" or "nobody's perfect" is an excuse that a lot of people use to ignore changes that they need to make in their lives. No, MLP is not flawless, and no reasonable person expects it to be. But it's not a good look when you use the phrase "we're not flawless" to deflect any and all criticism, regardless of how valid it may or may not be. And that's not a good lesson to teach to kids. Last but not least, Jasper Briggs says, Dragon Quest is one of the most slept on episodes of the entire series. It tackles the nuances of microaggressions that people face. Growing up as a black male, I've dealt with both sides of the spectrum that Spike did, the microaggressions from his pony friends and the microaggressions from his own kind, the dragons. Hold up, you might be onto something here. This is a huge yeah fam for me. See, I was a teenager when I first watched that episode, and I didn't rewatch it that many times, so I wasn't as media literate or socially literate as I am now. And I'm all for this interpretation of Dragon Quest. I'm also a black male that grew up with a lot of nerdy interests, and back then, being a nerd wasn't cool. And being a black male in the early 2000s and being a nerd in the early 2000s created a lot of cultural conflicts. Back then, if you didn't fit this narrow image of what a black man was supposed to be, you were made fun of by your own people, and it didn't feel good. It creates this sense of isolation from people that are supposed to be your kin. Meanwhile, you also have to deal with microaggressions from your non-black nerd friends who don't understand what you're going through. So this is definitely my favorite take so far, and truthfully speaking, it's gonna be hard to top this one, ladies and gentlemen. So with that, we have come to the end of episode 2 of Nah Fam. Next episode's theme is going to be Pokemon hot takes. It doesn't matter whether it's the games, the manga, the anime, the card game. If it's related to Pokemon, it's eligible. And as a reminder, one hot take per person, and be sure to use the hashtag NahFam in your comment if you want it to count. I hope you guys enjoyed today's episode and are looking forward to the next one. Until next time, keep it sketchy, folks. Peace.